Welcome to Season 2021, everyone. The LCS and LEC are about to begin, so if you haven't been keeping up with Riot's wild ride over the past 2 months, let me get you up to speed on what League of Legends is like nowadays. A lot of the game is exactly the same. Turrets, inhibitors, dragons, Baron, much of the game is exactly how you remember it. The theme of 2021 is items. Items are all different in pretty much every way imaginable, so let's break it down. First, we've got a new class of items called Mythic items. Mythics are meant to be built first or sometimes second. They're generally pretty OP, and they've all got some kind of really powerful, unique passive or active effect. You can also only get one per game. They've also got a special stat called a Mythic passive. Every completed item you build is worth extra stats, with those stats depending on the Mythic you chose. So for example, Luden's Tempest gives you extra flat magic penetration for every completed item. It's the one you buy when you want to kill squishies. There are about 3 to 4 mythics aimed at each class, but that doesn't mean you have to buy those ones. For example, AD carry's got Immortal SHIELDBOW, which gives a big shield and a bunch of lifesteal when you get low so that you can maybe survive assassins. They got KRAKEN Slayer with a bunch of attack speed and bonus true damage on hit, helping them kill tanks. GALEFORCE grants extra movement speed and has a short dash on a cooldown to help you navigate fights or dodge a Malphite ultimate. That said, Jhin or Misfortune could still just pick up DUSKBLADE, Eclipse, or another Assassin Mythic and use the lethality to augment their spellcasting playstyle. From there, the item shop has a whole suite of new, reworked, and occasionally unchanged items to buy. Here's a who's who of meaningful items in 2021. Healing Reduction is available to everyone now without feeling like the gold is going to waste. Executioner's Calling and Bramble Vest are just like you remember, but they've got a new sibling in Oblivion Orb, which now provides healing reduction instead of flat magic pen, giving magic damage champions easy access to grievous wounds. All 3 of those components have upgrades that make their Grievous Wounds debuff even stronger. Land Hard CC with Thornmail or Chemtech Putrefier aimed at supports to cut their healing by 60% instead of 40%. The new Morellanawakon and Chemtech Chainsword aimed at beefy AD champs grants that same amplified Grievous Wounds when hitting low health enemies. Mortar Reminder's still out there as well with increased effect for those attacking a champion several times. Speaking of wasting gold on stats you don't want, SHEEN is now its own component free from the shackles of providing mana. It's got 2 mythic items in our beloved Trinity Force and the new Divine Sunderer, which deals % max health damage, as well as Lichbane and the new Essence Reaver, which is exactly as different as you'd expect with the SHEEN in it. Junglers no longer have jungle enchants. Instead, they just buy blue or red smite right out of the gate, which eventually disappears from inventory and allows them to target champions about 7 minutes in the game. Now they buy all the same items as everyone else, which for champions like Hecarim, who wanted to rush Trinity Force anyway, can be quite the blessing. On the flip side, a lot of jungle mages were propped up by runic echoes being OP. Thankfully, a series of buffs have put them back on reasonable power levels, and so mages are pretty good. Finally, League of Legends has one reworked stat as well. Cooldown reduction is now called Ability Haste and works almost identically. One Ability Haste is roughly equal to 1% cooldown reduction, and here's a handy graph of how the stats compare. CDR basically scared multiplicatively with itself, but was constrained at a hard cap of 40 or 45 with the right rune. Meanwhile, Ability Haste can reach much greater heights, allowing for shorter cooldowns than before in late game. That brings us to our expectations of the 11.1 metagame. Which champs are OP? What will pros be playing? Honestly, we can't say just yet. Tanks have been supremely overpowered for the entirety of preseason, and up until recently, crit marksmen were nearly unplayable in lieu of their caster brethren. But a lot of that has been evening out with balance patches, and so I'm hoping we do see a lot of variation in the early weeks as teams figure out what's best for them. And most importantly, we can now blame all 5 players when no one buys Grievous Wounds. See you soon, everyone.
If you ready, let's run it.